Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about why you should focus on developing emotional competence, why listening is so important, and how to de escalate complex situations. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And I have a very, very special guest with me, Doug. Hi, Doug.
Adi, good afternoon or good morning for me. Good afternoon for you. We're
Right.
halfway,
So,
halfway
Doug,
around the world.
right. I'm so happy that we found the time to do it. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting. Doug Noll, lawyer turned into peacemaker. Doug Noll was born partially deaf, nearly blind, crippled, and he is an award-winning lawyer mediator. Doug work carries him from international work to helping people resolve deep interpersonal and ideological conflicts. Wow. So I'm sure you have so much. We have so much to talk. I'm from Israel, so I'm sure I'll have things to tell you about conflicts. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And the first question would be something that I read in some of your in your book, in some of your articles. What do you mean listening others into existence? What do you mean by saying that?
We all grow up in emotionally dysfunctional families. There is no such thing as a emotionally healthy family. And that's because emotional functionality is a skill that has to be learned. And our parents didn't know how to do it, and their parents didn't know how to do it. And this goes back thousands of years. And out of this emotional dysfunction, two things occur. One, most of us never experience emotional safety. Or if we experience emotional safety, we maybe experience it a little bit up until about 6 years old. And then things start to get really rough. And we build up these big walls around us to protect our real selves, our truly emotional selves, and inside those walls is where we experience all the shame and humiliation and despair and anger and maybe even pride that nobody ever gets to see. And we don't share it with anybody because it's too hurtful and too private and too vulnerable. Well, this is a very sad and lonely existence that many of us live. And what happens is that they build up all kinds of defenses: arrogance, aloofness, numbness, being unavailable, all of these and then of course that leads to addictive behaviors to try to fill the void. And what I've learned over many years of teaching people how to de-escalate is that it's not about de-escalation. It's about listening to a person at the deepest level of their existence so that they actually feel validated. And you literally listen them into existence. It's the first time for many people that anybody has truly listened to them and they feel like they've been heard at a deep existential level. And when that happens, all kinds of amazing things occur. And so that's why I talk about listening other people into existence. And the beauty of it is that once you learn how to do this, it's free. It costs you nothing. And every time you listen somebody into existence, you're throwing a little pebble into the pond of peace. And you're spreading ripples of peace all around you. And over a period of time, this accumulates in your own life. And you start to see the transformations in yourself and the others around you. And it's quite magical.
Yeah, I totally agree that listening is underestimated in general. People are really aware of communication and saying what you need and storytelling, which is very popular. But listening sometimes it seems like too passive, but it has so much power when you truly listen to someone. So I totally understand that. And why do you think leaders should do it more?
And it's not just listening to words. I mean, this is the thing that everybody thinks about listening is listening to words. What I say is ignore the words. Listen to the emotions. Listen to the emotions and reflect them back. Adi, you are angry today. You're frustrated. You don't feel like you're being heard. You feel disrespected. You don't feel supported. You feel sad. You're worried and concerned and anxious. You're embarrassed. And so when I reflect back your emotions, I'm listening to you at a much, much deeper level than if I simply paraphrase your words, which is what almost everybody teaches, is how to paraphrase, but almost nobody teaches how to listen to emotions. And that's the secret. It's the listening to emotions that's important, not the words.
So you have a different differentiation between emotional intelligence that you say we cannot really learn and emotional competence. How
Right.
do you see the difference between the two?
If I've studied the literature, I've gone out and read all the papers from Mayer and Solovey and everybody they've trained, and Caruso and all the people they've trained over the years. Um, Emotional intelligence is a test of a form of social intelligence that Myers and Solovey called emotional intelligence. They coined that frame in the late 1980s and early 90s in some papers, scholarly papers they wrote. And so, just like an IQ test, you can't learn IQ and you can't learn emotional intelligence. Goleman picked this up. Daniel Goleman picked this up and wrote his best-selling book in 1995, and he completely diverged from the science, and has made over the years has made many claims, which have been unsubstantiated by any sort of scientific empirical research, and claiming that you can learn emotional intelligence, and so a whole cottage industry of corporate training has come up around we're going to teach you emotional intelligence, and in my opinion, it's impossible. What you can learn is emotional competency. And there are three fundamental skills of emotional competency. Number one, learning how to be emotionally self aware. Number two, learning how to emotionally self regulate yourself. And number three, learning cognitive and affective empathy, two forms of empathy in terms of listening. And what's really remarkable is the way I teach it is I start with the last one. I teach people cognitive empathy, how to listen to emotions. And as they develop that skill, all the other competencies develop automatically.